need to talk about how extremism is anti-American. This is a concerted and specific effort by certain people to recruit and radicalize and be able to use that towards political violence to achieve their means. This isn't just some next stage or nuance when it comes to political disagreements and polarization in our country.
Many of us, and particularly my colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus, have long been raising the alarm about the rise of violent extremism for a long time. And white supremacist violence, in particular, we have long known to be a threat far earlier than January 6th.
What has become apparent is that law enforcement failed the community in addressing the threat. If you're a Sikh, or in fact, any minority living in the United States, it's impossible to look at the tragedy that unfolded in Indianapolis and not immediately consider the possibility that bias might have been a motivator.
As the Secretary has said on many occasions, it's our belief that the vast majority of those who serve both civilians and uniformed personnel do so with great honor and integrity. They serve often at a sacrifice to themselves and their families, their lives, in order to ensure that our nation is protected and safe, and that the values that we hold most dear are held. But we would be remiss if we didn't admit to the fact that there is a problem with extremist behavior within the military. That is to say that one extremist is one too many within our ranks.
What's new in today is the way that social media operates, and the way that it is being harnessed by a very organized and sophisticated international network of white supremacist leaders to normalize hate, to normalize violence, to glamorize those things, to recruit, and to fundraise.
What do we do? How do we restore confidence of the American people in our institutions of government that have been so strong for so many years?
I think together with DOJ, together with DHS, right, if we can have a strong federal, all hands on deck, they call it, whole of government approach, that is the only way that we'll be able to tackle this problem that, let's be real, America has been battling for centuries. And so we cannot continue to move forward with this type of fragmented approach.
How do we just build up the resilience of our democracy, our governance, taking steps like H.R. 1 and Voting Rights Act and other protections? That is our effort, that we understand that the opposite of this extremism and political violence is a resilient and strong democracy.
The people that suffer the most, African American, Latinos, immigrants, are the people that have less access and less trust to law enforcement. So what we need is intermediaries that, people can, and it goes to, it's sort of all tied. You talk about criminal justice, law enforcement reform as to how we police and protect one another. All of these issues are at the local level. And we need to build local infrastructure, safe places where people can report. So, Brett, we can deal with the evidence that we need in order to be very strategic. And we have to also engage, some of what I call the trusted local leaders. You folks spoke to hundreds of individuals and community. And I think that that's the best approach.
It's really important that we have some type of structure there so we don't create a vacuum in which these nefarious actors, these extremist groups step into to provide that leadership and that structure and that support that so many of these individuals not only crave but truly need. They need to feel a sense of community and belonging, and that's ultimately, unfortunately, what they're finding with some of these extremist groups.
Federal government, it's the moral voice. It's the resources, and then the local empowerment of communities to begin to engage in the dialogue. And once again, like I said, it sounds trite, but Brett and Katrina, the fact that you put this report together and you allowed and gave a podium for us to really begin to deal with this issue, I think is the beginning of a conversation that more and more people need to have, because we first have to acknowledge we have a problem. And then we can move forward with solutions. So I see your report is that beginning.